Welcome to our posts. Today, we will see stories of r/entitled parents. My mother feels entitled to my child. I have a 10-month-old baby. I'm pretty sure my mom is using her as a coping mechanism. About a year before I got pregnant, my grandma died from COVID. We were devastated, but the moment I got pregnant, it was like her eyes lit up. It started off small. Like when I was pregnant, we got into an argument over me naming my baby something different than what she wanted. She wanted to name my baby after my grandma because I just feel like she sent her down to Mesh, has an entire other side of family, and whenever I send her to spend time with them, she calls my phone and blows me up, asking me, why is she over there? How long? I need their number so I can call them. She completely disregards I'm her parent. Last night we got into an argument. It's my grandma's birthday today and we were going to visit family. Typically the baby will go, but her family asked to spend some time with her this week, so I sent her over. I told my mom it was just me going and she completely went off of me, talking about how I know it's my grandma's birthday coming up and I know the baby makes her feel better, so why would I send her anyways? She started talking to me crazy and she yelled at me saying I was going to pick her up and that she was going. I would just give in, but finally I put my foot down. I explained to her I don't think it's a big deal if she didn't go. She's a baby, she doesn't know my grandmother. I told her I tired of her using my baby as a crutch instead of actually getting better. I told her the only reason you want her there is so she can be your teddy bear. I told her my child isn't a tool for when she misses me grandma. I don't know, part of me feels like I shouldn't have said it, part of me feels guilty. But I don't think I can keep living like this. She's so suffocating. Next story. My mum hid the death of my panther to me because of inheritance. My father, an alcoholic, absentee, abusive, and violent man, died in November at his mother's house. The body was found in January, probably due to an alcohol-induced coma. My mother, my father's ex-wife for 15 years, and my brother cremated him and blocked all contact with me to hide my father's death for 6 months, even knowing that I was asking, and asking seems November because he went missing. I found out yesterday through a lawyer paid by my mother. My mother's plan was to prevent me from knowing my father had died so that I wouldn't claim the inheritance of the 25% of the house, my mother have the 50%, and my brother another 25%, allowing her and my brother to keep it. However, this month they received a debt along with the inheritance of 10,000 euros, so they were forced to inform me through third parties. For more details, my mother is a narcissist and abused me physically and mentally. I left home at 16 and fled the country to escape them. She controls my brother, who at 28 has the mental age of a 10-year-old. The lawyer tried to manipulate me into accepting the debt and the inheritance, arguing that a mother is a mother and that it's their current residence, a residence where they don't even let me in to get my things. If I refuse the inheritance, my mother will eventually win and keep the other half of the apartment, which is valued at 80,000 euros, the whole flat. My idea was to force them to sell the house and pay the debt with that. But the lawyer says that would be inhumane and living without parents because they are bad people. What is that? That my life is doomed with many mental problems because of them. Anyway, what do you think of this case? It's in Spain. I currently live in Germany. Im super Lurst. Thanks. Edit. Thank you all very much for all the comments. First of all, I want to clarify a few points. My mother owns 50% of the property because the apartment is in her name and my father's. The lawyer has also tried to manipulate me into letting her handle the case from my CT2, and when I told her I would go with another lawyer, she said it wouldn't be a good idea. Another point I want to ask is, would it be difficult for me to try to sell my 25% of the property? My mother and brother together would have 75% and have been living there for 21 years up to this day, which would make this process more difficult for me, wouldn't it? And I have 3 options. Accept the debt and own 25% of the apartment where my mother and brother live. but I haven't been able to retrieve my personal belongings from there for ages. Accept the debt and the inheritance, and have the debt paid off with the inheritance, which I don't know how that could be possible since my mother and brother are still living there, and I don't think they'll buy my share. Decline everything and leave them the debt and the 25% of the apartment. Thank you very much, truly. Next story. Left restaurant today. I had to ask the restaurant my husband and I went to tonight to make our orders to go thanks to an entitled parent. We went to one of our local restaurants. There was a family of 6, 4 kids under 5. They were being typical kids, laughing or giggling, which is fine. One started screaming a lot, and there was zero correction or response from either parent. One of the kids then proceeded to start hitting her plate repeatedly, non-stop with a spoon. Still, zero response from the parents. As my husband is currently having some sensory issues, so went up to their counter and asked for everything to be to go. She asked if something was wrong, and I said yes, unfortunately, they are just too much for us. The mother proceeds to tell me she's only 3 and it was a bit of an altercation. Apparently, because it's a restaurant, they are allowed to be as loud as they want to be. I should note this is not like a McDonald's where this would be appropriate. Kids are hard, but it's really awful when you just want to have a nice meal and can't because people think their kids can do anything, anywhere with zero consideration for others. Next story. My parents have made wedding planning a nightmare. I just want to rant. It's been a year of parents being completely insufferable. From the beginning, my dad has told me that he either plans for the whole wedding or doesn't want to have anything to do with it, but that has not been the case and makes it very clear when he hates something. My fiancé and I are paying for wedding for your information. Where do I start? They didn't like the venue, a beautiful golf course. They weren't happy with the guest count of 250 because they wanted double that. They're not happy with the DJ I picked and wanted to bring their own musician. My mom hated my wedding dress because I didn't pick the one she wanted. She's grown to like it, but is now complaining about the way it's being altered. She wanted to add some sparkles to the dress, which I've denied. They hate the layout of the tables at the venue. My dad tried to get us to change our first wedding song to a song of his choice. They hate that I'm not playing more traditional music from their culture, even though I'm splitting the songs even with my fiancé, who's from a different culture. I brought my mom and mother-in-law to meet with the decorator to get their opinion, and my mom hates the decor and embarrassed me in front of the decorator because she didn't have what my mom envisioned, and what I picked was too simple. It's just elegant and fits in with the venue. In my tradition, the bride literally dances her way out of her parents' house, and it's a huge ordeal with drummers waiting outside. Anyway, I'm an introvert and not a huge dancer, so I asked them to just skip the dancing and drummers and make it simple with classic music playing in the background and everyone just hanging out. It's a loud event and it's just not for me. My mom cried on the phone when I told her this. I just got my engagement pictures back today. We went for a simple shoot in the city and my dad criticized every single picture, told me to tell the photographer that they're awful and to get a new photographer for the wedding. The photographer and her husband are both guests at the wedding as they're friends of ours, and the pictures turned out beautiful. They've basically tried to control every single thing, down to the last detail. Wedding is in 2.5 weeks and I can't stand them anymore. Next story. Entitled homophobic aunt is mad at us for supporting her kids after they came out. I have to preface this by saying this is my fiancé's family, so they're technically my in-laws. But because they're extended family all lives in the area, and we've been together for many years, I'm a lot closer to them than typical future in-laws. The parents, aunts, and uncles generally are all super devout Catholics and extremely homophobic. But their kids are all between the ages of 16-29 and have left the church. 2 of our cousins who are sisters aged 16, let's name her Jenna, and 22, let's call her Jan, are queer. Neither of them are out to their families except for the cousins' generation. Jan has a long-distance girlfriend in another country that she met during college. The GF was an exchange student and recently visited her under the guise of visiting a friend. Her mom is very paranoid and homophobic and eventually confronted Jan, asking if the friend was gay, to which she said yes, and then asked if she was her GF. She said no. Her mom kept pressing and eventually Jan confessed they were dating. Her mom flipped absolute crap, lots of screaming, things being thrown and smashed. She took her college diploma off the wall and threatened to smash it. She took her phone and read through her messages and forced her to break up with her GF and essentially threatened to kick her out. Now Jenna, seeing her mom say and do abusive things to her sister, said, "Is now a good time to share that I'm also gay?" in almost comedic fashion. Elmao. Needless to say, me and my fiancé received red alert, gay alert texts from them, letting us know they came out to their parents and it wasn't going well. We immediately replied saying to come over, asking if they're okay and need anything, and offering our place for them to crash if they need. They said yes, but were scared to come over of fear of making their mom even angrier than she already was, so they ended up not coming over. The next day, they pretended to go to work school and stopped by our place to cry/process/talk. They shared that their mom took Jan's phone and read through all of her messages and saw our group chat, and she was now pissed at us for offering a place for them to run away to. She told them she doesn't want to come to our wedding anymore. We honestly don't really care, as the #1 priority for us is our cousin's safety. They shared how she's been verbally abusive their whole lives. Aunt was torn between telling the other aunts uncles about her kids coming out versus keeping it a secret to uphold the family reputation. We didn't think she'd actually tell them. BC, she cares more about vanity. Fast forward to last night. We're about to watch House of the Dragon with my fiancé's parents, and my future mother-in-law gets a call from said aunt telling her that she's mad at us for meddling in family affairs and encouraging them to run away. She also apparently saw that some text messages between Jenna and us were in invisible ink. She wanted to switch to that. BC, they know their mom was monitoring their phones. Aunt told my future mother-in-law that we taught them invisible ink. These are Gen Zers. They taught us invisible ink, and she thinks we're teaching these kids tools on how to sneak around their parents and that we're condoning their behavior. So now my fiancé's parents are involved. Future mother-in-law then shared she's been at the receiving end of being ghosted by this aunt and how there would be years of receiving the silent treatment. This aunt apparently missed all of my fiancé's graduations from elementary to college because of fights. She ended up crying because she doesn't want another conflict that would prevent her from seeing her brother, especially now because everyone's finally on good terms after all these years. She understands we were just trying to help, but now she's begging us to apologize to this aunt and make amends just for the sake of keeping the family together. Y'all, why do I suddenly have beef with an aunt-in-law? I'm not going to apologize for supporting our cousins after they went through a traumatic experience, and it's clear that fiancé's mom is just trying to appease her sister-in-law to avoid conflict. But if we stand our ground, this could bring the extended family into another big fight, and they'll blame us for starting it. This could mean that my future mother-in-law could go months, years without seeing her brother, or our cousin Jenna might be forbidden from coming over or seeing us since she's still a minor. Edit. Thanks for the words of support, everyone. It's really reassuring and helping us hang in there. Also, wanted to add that fiancé's parents are also homophobic, so this conversation, future conversations will be hard. BC, they already have a bias. They agree with us providing a safe space for the cousins, but that's pretty much the extent of their support. My fiancé is non-binary and not out to their aunts uncles for this reason, so this whole situation has been pretty triggering for them. They came out to their parents years ago, but I think future mother-in-law and future father-in-law honestly suppressed that memory because their parents never mentioned it and constantly misgender them. Next story. Should I tell my strict, religious, Muslim, middle-aged mother that I am an atheist? My 17F, live with my parents in an Arab country. I am not what most parents would consider rebellious. I get excellent grades, I dress modestly, and I do house chores like it's nothing. However, my mother thinks otherwise. Whenever I try to interact with her, the conversation always turns into a lecture about the things I do wrong, such as wearing makeup in school, not praying, dressing provocatively in my room. By provocatively, I mean wearing a dress skirt that is above knee length, not being social, etc. I usually shut her off using logic, but lately I just gave up on defending myself, and I would just leave the room or keep quiet. This situation is driving me crazy because I'm in a dilemma between wanting to tell her and suffer the consequences of being scrutinized, possibly killed, or conforming to her rules that make no sense. Also, I have two older sisters who do the same things as me and more, but the only difference is that they pray and they don't deal with the stuff I have to deal with. It's extremely hypocritical and makes me feel like I'm only loved if I shut up and become a puppet for my mother. Any advice would be appreciated. Update: thanks for everyone who left a heartfelt advice. I'm in a hard place now, and my perspective on this is shifting towards focusing on education as my main gateway. Next story. My parents gas-lit me out of $50 zuzos plus when I was 20. I work with my family business. Not like I joined my father's established business, but we created it with my brother and parents when I was 18. Now around 14 years ago, we were working in the coal mines in Queensland, Australia, and we did small jobs for the mine like drive machinery off-site for sales or maintenance, etc. And I drove a machine off that was old but well cared for. It was only being sold because it was very old. I found out that the machine was going up for auction the next day and told my father about it, how good it was, and he had a friend bid on it for us. The plan was we would go 3 ways. One me, one my brother, and one my parents and my brother, and I would get to be part owners of a machine. We won the bid, and I think I was told to pay $35,000 for my share, and I did. Funny enough, the mine site we were on had a contractor working there that needed this type of machine, and a week later, the same machine was back in the same place working again. My brother and I were told we would get 1/3 of the rental for the machine, and we were not great with keeping track out finances, so we just went on with life assuming it was being taken care of by my parents. 3 months or so go by with the machine working nearly every day, earning, I think, around $100 an hour. And the guy we were renting it to tells us that he will need this machine for the foreseeable future, so he wants to buy it for more than we purchased it for. Done deal. Everyone is happy, and the sale goes through, and we are told that it will take some time for my brother and I to see our share plus the profit from the rent, and time goes on. I asked about it 6 months later, and my parents told us that we had been paid our share. I said I didn't think so, but they assured us we had. More time goes on, and when I ask again, then the money was used for tax, or they needed some for this or that. Fast forward 12 years later, and my parents buy a very expensive house using the family business assets as collateral. Without talking to me, they start saying it's our house. I said it's not mine because I didn't put any money into it, but my brother did, around $80,000 I think, and my parents then said, "Oh, we put your share of that old machine sale in." Suddenly, they now knew where the money was. Apparently, they just decided to keep my money and my brother's money as a sort of cushion because we didn't need it. We didn't have any dependents and weren't married, I am now, so they needed it more. Suffice to say, I keep my money separate now, and I don't lend them anything. I know I should be more outraged, but families are complicated, and I'm pretty sure I got a bit or brainwashing or something to get over. They have done a lot of crappy things to us over the years, but it's only obvious when looking back. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel. Our posts.